Welcome to what is episode 2, listeners and viewers of the Jungle Podcast. We officially have a name. I know that was something that was very, very highly anticipated and talked about in social media over the past few days since our first episode, and we're really excited to welcome all of you aboard. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm glad we did settle on the Jungle Podcast after more consideration, which was not one of the first 5, I think, that we went through on the first one. But
life is a journey.
Exactly. And it gives, we were talking about it. You said it mentions and pays tribute to our Bengals fandom, which, but we're just not going to.
Exactly. So we wanted to, obviously, we are Bengals fans. We talked about it a lot, whether or not we wanted this to be like a regional, like Bengals-centric podcast or not. We decided no. So it's kind of a nod to the Bengals fandom, being that the Bengals play in the jungle. But we also want this to be more than about just the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that hopefully you guys would appreciate that too. So just wanted to preface everything with a couple different ways that you can get a hold of us. And a lot of this is still in the works. So, bear with us because we're new to this, obviously. So we got an email out there. It's the.bengals.podcast or the.jungle.podcast.email@gmail.com. We'll probably come up with a smoother one and memorize it. That'd probably be a good first step.
I think a smoother one might be a good idea. What's with the .email@gmail? Is that was the rest of it already taken?
I made it in a rush, so
gotcha.
We're hashing that out on the back end here, guys and girls. We're also going to be making this available as an actual podcast. We haven't done that yet, so keep an eye out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, some different platforms that we're looking into right now. Then we also started a YouTube channel where you can view all these videos and things of such. So just wanted to let you guys know that we have a name, which is a good first step, I think, even though it's like our 8th step.
Yeah.
And let you know where you can find us, and obviously, again, looking for some further consideration. So being that we are now in episode 2, wanted to give you like a quick kind of rundown of what we are expecting or hoping to go through today, and it is our podcast, so we're going to do it. But yeah, wanted to go through some of the Michael Jordan documentaries, and we have some good lists, some different pieces that we'll take you through at the tail end. Jeff, I want to kick it to you. I know we talked a lot about the draft to kind of eat up the front end of the podcast last Thursday, and there's been some rumblings. I know there's something that caught your eye yesterday. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, and we'll be brief on the draft. We're both super happy about Burrow coming to Cincinnati, thinking he's going to be the number 1 pick. And I was just happy. I saw a story where he reached out to Peyton Manning for advice over the weekend and to just about going into the NFL. And Peyton said that he gave him some nice pointers. Did say that look, it's going to be a rough rookie season, but he did make sure he realized that Joe Burrow knew. I think Manning has the record for most interceptions as a rookie.
28. Yeah, I was like, that's
or 26 or something like that. I think it's So it's a lot. And he said, "Won't be mad at you if you break that record, obviously, but wished him goodwill." The only thing that worries me is that him coming to Cincinnati is shoring up the offensive line, which there's a lot of great offensive linemen in the draft. So hoping that happens. And I think we have had a pretty good free agency. So really, that's about it on the draft side of it. Just really excited for that Thursday night.
There was something else that I saw today that was funny. So it was an Adam Schefter tweet, and I guess they did like a mock draft. I don't know if it was today. I think it was today. And there was some glitch. And obviously, like the draft's coming up Thursday, and they're going to do it virtually. Somebody's going to crash that thing, right?
Something's, I think, bound to happen. It's going to be super interesting. Goodell's announcing the picks from his basement, which, hey, I guess I'm in my basement right now for a podcast, but that's not announcing the NFL draft.
Right.
So that's going to be super interesting.
I think someone screws with them.
Might happen. I guess maybe the glitch today was a nice trial run for him, right?
They're doing it I don't know. We'll see how secure it is, but I think we might get some interesting twists and turns on Thursday. I just thought that was funny, and it kind of planted the seed in my head, so I wanted to bring it up too. Another thing I saw on Twitter was Josh Rosen was trending today. Obviously, he's a Dolphin right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like they've moved on pretty fast from him.
Well, he got there last year,
right?
Coming from Arizona, and now they have 3 first-round picks. You know, they got rid of some people so they could lock themselves up for a really good free agency this year, a really good draft position. I mean, we talked about a little bit last week also. There was originally rumblings of the Dolphins trade to the Bengals and of all their first-round picks. I mean, that'd be hard to say no to, right? I'd love to have 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, and another interesting one, just like regarding trades and everything, the Niners. Did you see what they had mentioned today?
Taking away their first 2. Yeah, their 2 first
they're basically
rounders, right?
shopping. They're saying both picks are on the board. And then they said Marquise Goodwin, Quan Alexander, D Ford, and then I'm not even going to pretend to be able to pronounce it, the Jaquiski Tart. I never heard of him. But the other 3 are like legit players. They're making them all available. So I'm kind of like, I don't even know. I'm not even going to speculate because I honestly haven't spent enough time. We're kind of like digging through it. Just some rumblings and some little notes I kind of stuck out to me just in the past day or two.
I think part of that was because I don't think they have picks in rounds 2, 3, or 4. So they have 2. Okay. They have 2 first rounders, and then they don't have another pick until the 5th round. I mean, that's a scary position for an NFL draft because you take obviously first round talent, and you hope that out of those 2, at least one of them pans out, but you don't even know.
Right.
And so much good talent gets taken between 2 and 4. I'm sure they're probably trying to load up on some more picks for 2 and 4. But hey, look, that's I guess what we can think about. We're not the experts in the war rooms that are making those decisions, but that's definitely that's where it's got to be coming from in my mind, that they don't have picks 2 through 4.
Yeah, and even though we are not the experts in the war rooms, we we will be live streaming hopefully Thursday.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yep.
That's still kind of to be determined. I think we're still hashing that out, but we're playing with the idea of doing a live stream on Thursday for the first round on YouTube. Trying to still kind of gauge.
At least we're doing a podcast during it. Either way. Either way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
so,
cool.
Were you able to catch the Michael Jordan documentary last night?
I've been so excited for that to start, and I was so pumped when I saw that they moved it up. I think it was supposed to start in June, and then it started for April, you know, with us all being quarantined inside. Loved the Bulls growing up as a really young kid. I remember watching them with my dad all the time and watching Michael Jordan. And as you get older, I think you start to hear those stories of how MJ really was versus when we were kids and you just think about him as just a basketball, Space Jam, sports star, right?
Right.
So excited for all the backstories. I thought the first 2 episodes were great.
It's like the most highly anticipated like special I feel like ESPN maybe's ever done.
I mean, definitely that one. I mean, this one and then the OJ one, right?
Yeah. OJ one's good.
The OJ one was fantastic, but I just love how they're doing it. It's a 10-part series. They're putting out 2 episodes per night, which is fantastic. You know, you don't have to because that first hour went quick.
Oh yeah.
Right, and then they have so many more scores.
I watched it on DVR, so it went real quick for me. But
yeah. But I mean, that's nice. But they did a really good job too. I thought. I mean, it didn't seem like there were too many commercials. There was a lot of content in it.
A lot of Facebook commercials, but
yeah. What I loved, and I always loved him watching him, but I like that like the little side story about Scottie Pippen. You know what I mean, and how he did Michael's last season or that last season in Chicago. This season they're talking about, you know, and everything. But it's Scottie Pippen. He's the Buzz Aldrin of sports, right? He's the second man in the moon.
That's
right?
That's a good analogy.
I mean, he is. It's. I think he's arguably the best 2 of all time. Would he have been the best player in the NBA if there was never Michael Jordan?
That's an interesting what if, and maybe we'll get to that a little bit later on. Wink, wink.
Yep.
Something that stuck out to me. You're much more sports minded. I know this is a sports podcast, but the first thing that I saw, they kind of cut to the piece where they're in Paris.
Yeah.
Right, and they're landing down, and the thing that struck me was just the style of the guys in 1970 or 1997. So MJ had the beret on, and then Phil had like a hat and like a trench coat, looking like either like I wrote down. Either like a 30s like newspaper salesman or Inspector Gadget or something in there. I thought that was outstanding.
That was. You're right, though. You know what I thought about, too, is why did everyone's suit look a little bit too big?
They were just right. It was the answer. They were
not,
just right in 1997.
I'm not a big fashion guy. Obviously, you know that, but I just thought it looked like everyone's suit looked a little bit too big. It was an awesome style. That was a cool part of it.
That caught my eye. I didn't know MJ hit the game-winning shot to win the NCAA title. Had no idea about that.
Okay, against Georgetown.
That was really cool. And then I was also interested. He actively wanted to come back to UNC. And I was kind of like, I wonder what college basketball was like then versus today. Didn't really go too far down that rabbit hole, but it just struck me like a guy who's going third in the draft and knows it. The fact that he would like willingly not just assume like, yeah, I'm gone. I don't know if it's a sign of the times or whatnot, but those were all cool things to see. The best piece for me of the whole thing was the Bulls music. Like, can we talk about that? That's the greatest intro music ever. At the end of episode 1, when they're playing that, I'm on the couch like, I sucked at basketball, man. But that made me want to play.
I hear you. There's something about those old Bulls warm-ups, those white ones with the red bull on the center of it. Oh, man, they're awesome. And watching them run out, it was just it was so well done. And I've heard nothing but like different speculations of what the next 8 episodes are going to be. But who knows? I think there's a Rodman segment. The episodes next week is what I heard. So I'm super excited. Really, really well done. And I think it's a good point what you said about him wanting to come back to UNC. But then it was Dean Smith who said, "No, you should go to the NBA."
As a good coach should.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
But no, those are cool things. I don't know. The Bulls are still like a cool like franchise. They're like a good scene. But you kind of forget, like, man, they've really fallen. Like, they were the pinnacle. Like, they were comparing them to like the Beatles when they went to France. You know what I mean? It's just kind of wild. Time kind of fades things, but it's nice to put a spotlight back on it and see it again.
Well, he was the most famous man on earth.
Yeah.
Right. I can't even imagine. One thing that I thought was finally cool. Now, growing up, you always hear the story that MJ was cut from his high school basketball team, and they touched on a little bit where it wasn't that he was cut from it, that he just played JV. Did you catch that? Yeah. And what I thought was cool was we finally got to see the coaches that everyone's been like, God, what do you think that coach thinks now? Yeah. They finally put him on camera. Admitted that he didn't make the JV or didn't make the varsity team. I just thought that was interesting because I always heard that story of, hey, he didn't make the team in high school, and so anything is possible, right?
Yeah, he was probably thrilled to get a chance to speak on it.
Exactly. But no, that was cool. I mean, I'm super excited for the next 8 episodes.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that was, I guess that's all my news and notes on the MJ piece. I know in episode 1, kind of inadvertently, we started the rumblings, what we hope to be one of our segments that could be a regular on here, which is sexy, not sexy. So the premise of the segment is really going to be like one of the things that, I don't know if it's going to be weekly or every episode. We're still hashing that out, obviously. But it's something that you found sexy, and whatever that means to you, sexy and not sexy, something that you didn't enjoy so much that you don't think so hot right now. So I'll let you go first, Jeff. Let's start with sexy. What's your sexy piece of the week?
Okay, I was going to let you go first because I wanted to give – you were the one who came up with this with the hot sexy. I'll take it. I'll take it. It's I'm excited about this segment when we first started talking about it. But I'm going to tell you what's sexy right now. You know what's really sexy right now? We just talked about it, and it's because of what we just talked about, the Jordan documentary. So the sexiest thing right now in sports is MJ better or is LeBron better?
Yep.
I've been hearing that on sports shows all morning. People think MJ, people think LeBron. I mean, obviously, it's such a hard debate, right? I feel like those two breathe their own air when it comes to the best basketball players. But that's what's sexy right now in the news world of sports.
I had something a little different. I had the Taiwanese baseball. So one of the few niches in sports, apparently, that is active and participating in full-fledged competition right now is the world of Taiwanese baseball, which I thought was super sexy. And then another piece of that is that they actually had a bench clearing brawl, which could fit into the not sexy category just because they're not abiding by social distancing guidelines. But that was my sexy piece of the week.
Okay, I like that. I think a bench clearing brawl when it comes to sports is pretty much always on the sexy side, especially during broadcasts. And I mean, hey, maybe they all got tested before. They're all clear of it, and they've just been on lockdown in the same stadium, so they got tired of each other.
I highly doubt it, but I really love the positive vibe. So
yeah,
agreed on that. For not sexy, what do you have, Jeff?
So for not sexy, people who think LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan all time. That's what's not sexy. I think it's a really good debate, but I'm an MJ guy growing up with him, but I do think there's arguments to be made for LeBron.
Can't argue with that. I had Jerry Krause. He came off very not sexy in the MJ doc, and I had I know we're only supposed to choose one, but whatever. I had in parentheses also haircuts. Like, it's really not sexy trying to get a haircut right now because you can't. And I just wanted to throw that in there for good measure as well.
I think that's very fair. Thankfully, I'm able to shave my own head, so I don't have to worry about that. But that's a good point. And another thing that you said last week, which I think can lead us into our next segment, was kudos to us for starting a podcast.
Absolutely.
And then we thought, well, with everything going on right now, it'd be great to hear just some good news or give a spotlight on someone that's doing some good for everybody else, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Which I hope that's how you went with the segment. That's how I decided to go with the segment. So I want to know who is your kudos of the week to?
Well, you hoped that's how I went with this segment, but I went kind of in a completely different direction. My kudos of the week, I came across a news article that was incredibly inspiring to me. There's a story of 6 backpackers that have been surviving in a cave in India. It's people from like North America and Europe and some different areas, and they all found themselves in India when the COVID-19 epidemic struck, and they've been living out of a cave without any money. They've been breaking quarantine rules, and the Indian government is making them write out things like Bart Simpson style as punishment. That was my kudos of the week, just because I can't imagine A, living in a cave, B, especially in India, and C, without any money. So I thought that was incredibly inspiring, and I awarded my kudos of the week to those 6 backpackers.
Hey, I think that's fun. I think that's a good one, right? You got a nice story out of it. So my kudos is actually just to any sports network on TV right now, because we all look for that outlet of sports all the time. This podcast was mainly based on that because you and I like to talk about it so much. I was watching ESPN over this, the past couple of weeks, and they were doing highlights of video games. So if professional sports anchors can make that entertaining for us to watch, I think that's a big kudos to them to keep entertaining people during this time when we're all looking for good sports news and no one's even playing. So they've done a really good job, not to mention moving up the documentary, the MJ documentary from when it was first to start. So that is my kudos of the week.
That was fantastic, Jeff. You did much better in that segment than I did. So kudos to you. Awesome. So transitioning to the piece of this, where we do some different lists. As I mentioned last time, Jeff and I are incredibly high on the list idea. We think it's right in our wheelhouse. And the one we're going to be doing this week, there's actually 2. We're giving you a bonus segment, you lucky listeners out there. The Gus Duggerton hire at USC. I texted the snapshot of the tweet to Jeff, I think last night or maybe the night before. I was like, we have to do something with this. Gus Duggerton, if you don't know him, ladies and gentlemen, I believe he's the new offensive coordinator for USC. And his name is funny enough, but when you combine it with what a picture of the guy looks like, it's just comedy. So we were thinking, what are some of the best coach names? Because there's a couple out there that especially for football, really this is for any sport, but they're hilarious. So on my list, I'm gonna lead it off. I had Gus Duggerton as one of my top 5 coach names.
Yeah, you can't top that. I think that's fantastic. I was pretty excited about this segment also, just because you read some of these and it's kind of like, how was that allowed? But thankfully for these people, I did just kind of all across sports.
They allow them to name their child
right?
that.
But it's so good. So my first one, I put down Houston Nutt, longtime football coach.
Please explain why, Jeff.
Houston Nutt. Let's go. I don't think that needs any explanation. That's a fantastic name. And thank you for providing that entertainment to us when your name scrolls across the screen. Houston.
Absolutely, Houston Nutt. That's a classic. I love it. Fantastic. My second one on my top 5 name list was, you can't go wrong, and you might have him too, Jim Bob Cooter.
I have him. You can't beat that.
Just like Jim Bob, that would be enough. You throw Cooter on the end, and how can we leave that out? That's completely ridiculous. I believe he was the head coach of the Lions.
Well, he's
someone named Jim Bob.
He's Cooter. He's with the New York Jets now. So he's still coaching in the league. Good for Jim Bob. I think that's
plugging away. Coach
that
Cooter.
That is a fantastic one. I'm gonna go ahead and go not a coach, a little bit different direction here, and actually a sport that we have yet to talk about in the NASCAR world with Dick Trickle.
Dick Trickle. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yes.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I think I wiped it from my memory bank. But man, that's a hard one for me to follow up there, Jeff. So
Appreciate it.
Much props. My number 3 was Rob Chudzinski. If you're not seeing a pattern here, there seems to be a lot of I don't know. I'm not going to point it out for you because I think our listeners can probably stick to that on their own. But Rob Chudzinski coming in 3rd for me.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I think for me, for my 3rd one, and well, we both had Jim Bob, so that takes one off the list for me. But let's go ahead and keep it in the Cincinnati theme, and I'll finish up with the ones that I like to mention here with Dick Poole.
Dick, that might be the best one on the whole damn list, because you sent that to me earlier, and I was like, I don't even want to see anymore. That's the winner in my eyes.
That's a good one, right?
That's a fantastic one. The next one I had was Dick Bumpus. Depending on how you pronounce the last name, there could be some other innuendos in there. Bump ass.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I was aware of him.
I wasn't either. I went down a Reddit hole of funny coach names, and this is what came out. So don't kill the messenger, man.
Well, look, I think that's quite the hole to go into. We want to know what other ones you can think of. Send them to us. Tell us how we did on that.
I had one more.
Go ahead.
Horace Butterworth. He was the 1907 coach for Temple football.
That's a really good one to end on.
Horace, how could you forget him?
Coach Butterworth. That is fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, look, that's kind of a more comedic list, but I think we'll probably keep doing stuff like that. I'm definitely looking forward to finding more funny names in sports. That's a good segment. So kudos to John with the idea on that one. I think that takes us into our last one of something that I'm probably the most excited about to get on here and talk to you about is we are going to draft an NBA team. I'll go first, and then John, pick by pick, who we think is the best position by position, 5 starters, 2 alternates of anyone who is active after 1990. Active.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Anything I missed there?
No. I think you you did a fantastic job prefacing this sports list, Jeff.
All right. Well, look. So my first pick, I don't think it's going to be any surprise, and I'm pretty sure I know who John's going to go with. My first pick is Jordan.
Can't argue with that. I mean, they just did the document. They're in the midst of doing the most popular documentary, arguably ever, on him. Widely regarded as not only the greatest basketball player. I know there's LeBron conversation pieces out there, but I mean, it is what it is. He's regarded as the greatest ever right now. And that's, certain times have been regarded as the greatest athlete of all time. So I certainly can't argue with MJ. What position do you have him in? I'm assuming it's the 2.
Shooting guard. Yep.
Okay. It's your first pick. I'm going to take my first pick. I'm going to take LeBron James. I'm going to put him at my 3. I think he's a nice, versatile player. I considered throwing a curveball and maybe putting him at like 1 or 2 and then just seeing your head explode, but I'm going to put him at the 3 for now.
See, that wouldn't have been a curveball. I think him at 1 would have been a really good pick. But all right, that's fine. Yeah,
I'm trying to play by the rules.
No, I like it. I like it. My second pick, it's got to be Shaq.
Shaquille O'Neal, huh?
Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal.
Okay.
He's my 5. The big guy in the middle. Won titles with multiple teams.
No arguments there. I can't take anything away from that.
Yep. For
my second overall pick, I'm going to go right to the jugular. Actually, I'm doing this on the spot. I think I'm going to take Tim Duncan though as my 4. Timmy, I mean, he was a Spur forever. I was a good fan of his, especially like mid 2000s. I used to love those old Spur teams, specifically Brent Berry, the sniper from 3-point range, number 17, in those gorgeous white and black uniforms the Spurs used to wear. I think he'd make a great addition to Team John.
I think that's such a good pick. Tim Duncan's one of my favorite players I ever watched, for sure.
Greatest power forward of all time?
Greatest power forward of all time. Greatest power forward of all time. But so for me, then my 4 to combat that, I'm going to go Kevin Garnett.
KG?
Yep.
Can't argue that. I mean, he's fantastic. I thought about putting him. I had some other names on there at 4. I had like Giannis, Dirk, Carl. I had a few others.
You can put Dirk in 3 though.
You could. Yeah. Sorry if I stole the thunder there on one of those. Maybe you're about to do that. But I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a great pick. Can't argue with KG. And I mean, especially like mid to late 2000s, like he was the dude. You remember back when he was with the Timberwolves?
Yeah.
They were bad, but he was – I mean, he was so consistent. He was a leading scorer.
Dominated.
They seem to have a guy like that every once in a while. Like Kevin Love was kind of like that where he just, pops off for like 30 a night consistently.
Dude, Kevin Love is – I don't know if you could put him in the same category as Garnett.
I'm not saying this is in the same category. As a playmaker for the Timberwolves that consistently does well, especially from a scoring standpoint, Kevin Love.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And he's a fantastic basketball player. But Garnett was he was a force, man. All right, so you're up.
All right, so I'm gonna go to the 1. I'm gonna take Steph Curry to run the point for me. Yeah. What are you gonna do about that?
I think it's a really good pick.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good pick. But for me, I'm gonna go with John Stockton at 1.
Love that. Yeah, I can't do much about it. One of the things I was looking at like the NBA starting 5 for the All-Star team year by year. Mm-hmm. His name's on there, 5 years.
He's unbelievable.
Ridiculous. He had Hall of Fame career. All the guys we're naming hopefully have a Hall of Fame career.
Oh, come on, absolutely. But his Jazz teams were awesome, and they always their battles with the Bulls were fantastic to watch.
Agreed. Yeah, he's Hall of Famer. Yep. For my 2, I'm gonna go with Kobe. R.I.P. I mean, he's second. I think openly regarded as the second greatest shooting guard ever, behind MJ.
Yeah.
I don't think a whole lot of explanation needs to go into probably a lot of these picks, but especially that one. I mean, I'll take Kobe.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to pick a bad team when it's just when it's this, but I think if there's so many people to go through, when I was writing down names, and Kobe's such a good pick, that was hard for me to not take him. But I still have my 3 for my starters on the board that I'm thinking of, and I'm going Kawhi.
Kawhi Leonard?
Yep.
Oh, Jeff.
What?
Are you trying to stir the pot right now? Like,
I mean,
you're going to take Kawhi Leonard over Durant, Scottie Pippen? You were saying, hold on. You just said, you said to start this thing, Scottie Pippen, if he hadn't been he might have been the best player in the NBA, and now you're going to take Kawhi Leonard.
You haven't taken him. Why didn't you take him?
Scottie Pippen?
Why didn't you take him?
You just said he was the greatest NBA player at the time.
Why didn't you take him?
That's a great. I love the deflection. That's a fantastic. That's a great.
You can argue. You can argue that Kawhi has been the best player in the league for the past couple years. All right, and he won titles with multiple teams. on his own in Toronto too, pretty much.
He won a title for a Canadian NBA team. Look at
they won it.
That's Canadian NBA teams are not sexy. Like Miami, LA Lakers, especially the NBA, like they like to go to like fun places to play.
Right.
Like,
hey, Toronto's a cool city, but I see what you're saying. But see, so that's an argument.
Nothing against Toronto on the record, but right. I'm just saying like they've never won beforehand, so there's something there, right?
All right, so you're up. Who do you still have? What position?
At center, and I'm going to take Olajuwon. Same draft class as we all learned, but I'm going to take Olajuwon.
Number one pick.
5.
I didn't think you were going to take him, and that's who I was hoping to grab.
I'm here there. Throwing you curveballs, man.
You are throwing me curveballs.
Shock and awe.
So I'm going to take – so I'm on my bench now. I'm taking Barkley.
Wow. So are you like building a lineup on TNT or like that?
What do you? He's the only.
Oh, well, he's a great player, but like, there's so many other guys I could throw out there. What's your plan with him?
He was dominant. What do you mean? He was dominant.
Yeah.
On bad teams.
True. All right. I'll see your Charles Barkley. I'll raise you a Giannis.
Yeah, I like that pick. I mean, MVP probably. Chance most likely going to win it again this year. So, all right. I like that. Okay, so this is the final pick then.
Your final pick. It's not the final pick. You went first. You don't get to the last two, Jeff. You're going to make all the rules.
All right, so I got to go with so I'm looking at it. I'm you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get another man to run the point who can do it all by himself and did it all by himself for a while, and I'm going to go with Iverson.
You take AI. That's fantastic. Yep. He was the coolest thing out in 2002, 2003. I'm going to take Magic Johnson. I'm going to take the
90s after? What are you talking about?
He was – I looked this up, Jeff. He was
I'm glad you did.
NBA MVP.
Early 90s?
I believe 1990.
Yeah.
I'm taking Magic Johnson. He's running the point at an MVP level. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's playing like 2. That's my final pick of my draft. So
that's your team right there. All right. So he played. I had to fact check you. He played to 91 and then had a break in 90 for 4 years and then came back in 96.
He got AIDS or something, didn't he?
Well, he had HIV. Didn't have AIDS. So, but he came back in 96. He plays for 3 years in all of the 90s, and you're going to take him. That's fair. So all right, let's recap.
MVP? I'm pretty sure I looked that up.
Let's recap. Charles was an MVP.
All great players. Yeah, he
right.
was NBA Most Valuable Player at 1990. We said 1990 forward. I mean, you set the rules out. No, don't argue with
fair.
The picks.
It's fair. We're gonna hear who people think have the better list. That's what we want. I want to know what you guys think. This is my final one. So I went Jordan, Shaq, Garnett, Stockton, and then Leonard, Barkley, and AI.
Well said. I had
Great
Steph,
right there.
Kobe, LeBron, Tim Duncan, and Olajuwon. Then on the bench, I had an MVP level Magic Johnson in 1990. I also had Giannis Antetokounmpo. Not even going to pretend to say his last name correctly.
I had an MVP in Barkley on my bench.
You had a great team as well. We're gonna let the viewers decide what they think. Who won this little bout we had here today?
Yep.
I know Thursday's a draft coming right around the corner. Jeff and I are playing with the idea of doing like a live draft, or not a live draft, either a podcast or live stream. We'll hash it out. Obviously, we haven't talked about it in that great detail. We're telling you different things on the same show. Who does that? But it is what it is, and we're still getting into this. Hope you guys enjoyed the second episode. We're having fun making them. I mean,
yeah, we are.
It is a good time, and we're excited to kind of see how this thing builds. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback from you guys, so really appreciate it so far. Try to keep putting them out.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. We both appreciate it. That was a ton of fun, John. We'll talk soon. Until next time, buddy, and looking forward to Thursday night.
See you in episode 3.
See you, man.
See you, man.